Hey everyone, I'm Darla and I'm going to discuss blood pressure and pulse today. I'm going to start a share real quick. And the first one we want to talk about is the blood pressure chart showing that when we use a blood pressure chart and we see that the ideal is in the green, that's usually 120 over 80 or less. If it comes in this region, anywhere from under 90 over 60, then that is certainly hypotension or low blood pressure. The pre-high blood pressure or watching for pre-hypertension is under 140 over 90. The red, of course, is elevated blood pressure, and crisis mode certainly is going to be if you get anything remotely close to 190 over 100, then you are pretty much in crisis mode. Now, this shows you for an adult, and certainly there are other numbers that might change accordingly for age, not gender more, but mostly for age. I'm going to show you another form here that is actually related to orthostatic blood pressures. And just one sec here. And the orthostatic blood pressure is actually when we are trying to see if a person is much different when they're laying down as opposed to standing up. If there's any type of associated problems, such as lightheadedness or dizziness. And pretty much when you are working on an orthostatic blood pressure, your provider will give a detailed list of how they want it done. So on this one, it actually shows have the patient lie down for a full 5 minutes. You can see the positioning and the time. You would write the blood pressure and the heart rate, and then you would write any associated symptoms. After that measuring of the blood pressure and pulse rate, you would have them then stand and you would repeat that blood pressure after 1 minute after standing, and then again standing after 3 minutes. If it's a drop in more than 20 millimeters, typically of total blood pressure, or even 10 millimeters in diastolic, or if there's any type of lightheadedness or dizziness, that associated symptom must be written here. Understand with orthostatic blood pressure, it is very common. They're starting to implement it more often. Many insurance companies are requesting it, but for the most part, they're going to have their own sheet as to how they want it done. The other thing I'd like to share with you is a little bit about when a person is figuring out pulse pressure, which is the difference between the actual systolic minus the diastolic, and we want that to be somewhere between 30 to 50. So when that happens, when you're trying to figure that out, if you have too close of numbers, it's less than 30, then from the time the blood actually filled the chamber to the time it was sent to the organ systems, it's too close in proximity. As well as if you have too large of an opening gap, it's just too long of a time. You're not getting the oxygenated blood to the organ systems quick enough. So that's why they're concerned that that should be within 30 to 50. And once again, I will show you how that works. So let me share my screen once again and show you the pulse pressure page. This will show you once again that you subtract the systolic minus systolic diastolic. That is what's called blood pulse pressure. And studies have shown that the number should be no more than 60, but usually 30 to 50 is what we try to have it here. It says that when greater than 60, certainly greater than 60, that there's an increased incidence of adverse cardiovascular events, especially in the older population. Extreme hypertension, if you have a pulse pressure of 70, it's much more of a risk factor. And we are also concerned that if it's, like I say, too low, the numbers are too close in proximity, that can cause some potential problems with carotid artery narrowing and whatnot. So not that this is used continuously, but we have found that the doctors are starting to realize that this is something that they are looking at closer than they've ever done before. It is certainly an identification that there is some common problems associated. So pulse pressure, once again, is the systolic minus the diastolic, preferably between 30 to 50. But if you have significantly less than 30 or significantly higher than 50, you should see a provider, and the provider should be aware of what's going on, and there probably would be more tests involved. So with that said, I'm going to pull up another screen here for you. I'm going to share this one right now. This is blood pressures again, showing that the normal blood pressure of 120/80, but it's approximate age range difference from being a newborn to being a teenage, adolescent, an adult, what have you, that these numbers certainly do not need to be memorized, but you do need to see that you're going to have different numbers. That does not mean you are having significant high blood pressure. If you're 14 years of age and you have, a systolic of 95 or a systolic even as much as 140, you're still going to be fine. Those numbers might change. So this kind of helps you. I also like the other sheet before it. Just let me pull that up real quick. You'll see that the normal heart rate from newborn is going to be much faster than an adult. You can also see that we have 50 down here for the pulse, just because even though 60 to 100 is acceptable, and 50 is very often could be hypotension. If they are really involved in athletics, you're going to have a number under 60 without a doubt. And also remember that the respiratory rate is not going to be tachypnea until it gets above 40. So those kind of hopefully will help your blood pressure understanding. I'm going to look one last time and see if there is anything significantly else out there that we need to discuss. But if I can just pull this one more time, that orthostatic blood pressure, realize that that is not something that every office is mandating, but I really would like you to be familiar with it because we are starting to implement that and pulse pressure much more at most of the providers' offices. Okay, well, that concludes blood pressure and pulse pressure. I hope you have a great day and thank you so much. Take care.